All right, thanks, Matt. So yeah, today we've got two guests. Our first guest is Suzie Wheway. So I think a lot of you will already know Suzie. So Suzie is a cold water swimmer, an outdoor swim coach, and also a paddler for more than 20 years, I think. So plenty of experience in the watery environment. So Suzie's been hosting this series of online talks, and we've looked at how to approach wild swimming, cold water swimming, what is adventure swimming, water quality, that kind of thing. And this whole series of talks was aimed at swimmers. Today's talk is about access, and that is an issue that's really particularly relevant to swimmers, but it's also relevant to anyone that likes to run, to walk, to climb, to kayak, to camp, anything outdoors. So hi, Suzie. Welcome back. Our second guest is Nick Hayes. So Nick is an illustrator, an author, and an activist. So last time we spoke to Nick, we were in lockdown, and he was talking to Owen Heyman about his book, The Book of Trespass. So Nick is also the co-founder of the Right to Roam campaign, and that campaign is aiming to gain similar rights of access in England to countries like Scotland and I think Norway. Nick will correct me if that's not right. So hi, Nick. So we know that more and more people are swimming outdoors, and we know that more and more people would like greater access to outdoor spaces. So I guess the purpose of today's talk is that hopefully you'll come away feeling that you've learned something about what the issues are around access, what your rights might be, but also what action you could take if you'd like to support better access for all. So I think I'll start with Nick, because Nick, last time we were talking to you, we were talking about the Book of Trespass, but you've got a new book coming out in April, The Trespasser's Companion. So do you want to give us an idea firstly about what is the position around access to rivers and waterways in England, and also how does your book explore that and the silliness around it?
Yeah, thanks so much for having us on, and thanks everyone for taking the time out of your evening to come and listen to us yabber on. But this really is the year that we change things. I think both me and Suzie are in one agreement with that. As it stands, 97% of rivers, no one knows the figure of reservoirs, but it's loosely bugger all.
I'd say that
97%. Is it zero? There's no legal, there's no permissive right to access reservoirs.
In England, there's one with free access, which is ShAFF, which is near Huddersfield. That's the only one I'm aware of. Yeah. There's a couple of tiny disused ones, but yeah. We've maybe got three.
Well, that's magnificent news. The situation with rivers and reservoirs is so fucking dire that it can only get better. And certainly, I think for our Right to Roam campaign from day one, the issue of essentially the militarization of our rivers, the razor wire that fishing clubs use, the aggression, it's so incongruous with the river itself, the ambience, the atmosphere, the vibe of the river, but also the reasons that we're going there. We're going there to soothe our mental health. We're going there to support our physical health. We're not going there for more aggression. But as it stands, we're only allowed access to 3% of rivers. And the only reason we're allowed access to them is because they've got specific navigation rights that were applied to them through an act of parliament, largely in the 16 and 1700s. So that means you're only allowed to swim in rivers that you... My internet connection's unstable, I apologize for that. I guess the book that I'm releasing, if I'm honest, it's not even really a book, it's just some... I don't know how we managed to get it through Bloomsbury's goalkeeper, but we basically got them to publish our propaganda. And it's really just a mechanism explaining how and why we'd like you to go trespass rivers and lakes, but also woodlands and greenbelt and golf courses and crown land, and also to upload it on a website called the trespasserscompanion.org, where we can actually basically make a library or demonstrating good public use of nature via ignoring the barbed wire that blocks us from it.
Yeah, so I guess, Suzie, we've just heard that you've actually only got a right of access to 3% of rivers and their banks in England. How's that reflected in your experience of swimming in Sheffield and the surrounding areas? I mean, do you feel that, and how does that affect you professionally, because you're an outdoor swimming coach?
Yeah, so it's a royal nightmare. Now, I live on the, as some of you will know, I live on the kind of the other side of the peaks to Sheffield, so I have the whole of the peaks between me and Sheffield. I've got a massive map of the Peak Districts in my living room, the whole of the kind of OF maps are up there, and there's 40 obvious bodies of water that would be great for swimming in, that we don't have access to, that we can't swim in, that we will be challenged, that we will be asked to leave, that we will be kicked out of. And I went into this as a job very much with my eyes open. I've been a paddler for 25 years, so I know that we don't have open access to water. But it still astounds me at just how hard it is, and the constant, endless battle I have speaking to people, trying to do my job, trying to help people into the water. So, you know, I want people to come and enjoy the water, because the water has given me so much. That's why I now do my job, because I want them to experience what I have. But I can't do it. I don't have, I coach in places that I can publicly access, and that I feel like I can get away with. And I'm very open about that with clients as well. So if anyone's on here who, you know, is thinking about coming to do stuff with me, that's the situation where we're in the peak. I've tried to approach people to get permission with limited to no success. I thought I was nearly there. Incidents have happened this week that might mean that's gone out the window. So yeah, it means I can't do my job, and it means that there are coaches across the country and swim guides who cannot do their job. And
it's an important job, because actually people are going to go and swim, and it's better if they've got access to education and can learn how to do it safely.
Absolutely. I think what we've seen in the last 2 years with the pandemic, because it has, you know, outdoor swimming was on the rise, but the pandemic, when the pools closed and everybody wanted to get outside and we couldn't go overseas, it just went poof through the roof popularity. It was in mainstream social media, loads of celebrities were taking it up and promoting it, but without any reference to safety or what the access situation is. And the part of the problem is we've had 40 years of being told that inland waters are dangerous, that you're going to die, you know, really, really scaremongering tactics. So it means that people haven't swum outdoors for a very long time, so they've lost all the skills. So I try and do water safety sessions for kids in the summer outdoors, and I always make sure that the parents come and listen to the blurb I give the kids and invite some of them into the water with us as well, so that they can experience it. And consistently all the parents come away and just say, I've learnt loads. And this it's not rocket science, it's really basic stuff I'm teaching kind of 8 to 15 year olds, but we've lost those skills, and yeah, I need to give those skills to people back, because we've got, the latest figures are about 2 to 3 million people are regularly swimming outdoors in the UK. And some of those people could be at risk because they don't have the knowledge and information that they need.
Yeah. So do you feel like people are concerned about the fact that they might not be allowed to swim? Is that one of the things that might stop them?
Yes and no. It's a funny one. I think I came to it with existing knowledge of the lack of access. So I knew it was an issue. I knew that I was at risk of being challenged. A lot of people who have come to it don't realise, they have no idea. So they rock up and swim somewhere and then get told off and go, oh, I wasn't expecting that. What's the deal here? But I think what's been wonderful to see over the last 2 years is through the likes of the work that Nick does, a little bit that I do, but certainly the big group in Sheffield called Soup have done, is they have encouraged mild-mannered trespass. They've gone, look, these are your this is the situation. So basically, if you go and trespass, whether it be on private land or in a reservoir or on a river, it's civil trespass. It's not criminal unless it becomes aggressive and the police become involved. In that situation, you don't have to give your details to anybody but the police. So if you're approached by a landowner and you are polite and go, okay, yeah, fair enough, I've been caught, I'll walk away politely, there is nothing that they can do. They can't get your details. I've had my number plate, I've had my car taken photos of as I've driven away, but that person cannot get any data from the police. They don't have the right to access that.
That was one of the things I picked up from reading the book of Trespass as well, is that, you know, Nick, nothing awful actually happens to you.
Yeah.
You go and you do your thing. Somebody perhaps asks you to leave, and that's that. But then you've explained to me before that perhaps depending who you are, you might have a different experience of how someone reacts to you when they find you on their land. But I guess how do we cultivate that sense that it's okay for us to be outdoors?
Well, I mean, that's a really good point. You know, there's just on the last point as well, there's obviously the majority of us feel a sense of shock or slightly appalled that we're accused of doing something that is against the law, because and let's just be real, that's the kind of feeling that basically puts a lot of people off. And actually, if everyone were to open their cameras on this thing, God knows, but you could pretty much guarantee it's going to be a mosaic of white, middle-aged, middle-class faces. What we're also worried about at the Right to Roam campaign is the cultures, the marginalized societies that have been so divorced from nature for one reason or another, that the very idea of going for a swim or cold water swimming, the very access that we have to mental and physical health just isn't part of their community, part of their day, part of their consideration for what they're going to do for the weekend. There are so many people to the scale that the NHS would save millions, if not billions, 8.2 billion pounds per year, estimated by NHS Forest, is spent on dealing with our sedentary lifestyles. We have rivers flowing, you know, throughout every county in England, that if only people realized that the countryside was for them. So people need to be encouraged towards it. But
yeah, so how do you do that? How do you start to reconnect those people who either aren't aware of it, like it doesn't even occur to them to go there, or they feel like it's not their space?
Well, I would say the single most effective thing the government could do is open up the rivers and make a fanfare about it. Like, you do not need government-funded schemes to persuade people into the countryside. You just need to open the gate, and you need to educate people. Like, the Countryside Code is the most embarrassing sort of set of responsibilities in Europe. Like, there's so much paucity of what actually goes on in the countryside. If you look at the Scottish Outdoor Access Code, not only is it incredibly detailed, the point that the Outdoor Swimming Society make as well on their website, that by actually learning your responsibilities, you're learning about the ecology, you're learning about the fluctuation, about the riverbed, about you know, spawning fish, what might be happening there, about invasive species, about the erosion of the riverbank, what your responsibilities are, actually teach you a bit more about the world that you're entering and becoming a guest in. But there's none of that on the English Countryside Code. And in terms of health and safety, it's absolutely, like, it's quite shocking that we still, along with wild camping, we still have to pretend that people don't do it, that 1 to 2 million people every year don't swim. We pretend that it doesn't happen because it doesn't suit the laws of property to acknowledge that it does. So very simply, the government have to change the rules. And I guess the message that I'll be coming back to, hopefully throughout all this time, is that it's down to us, it's down to you and me to make them change it. And the way we do that is just by the quote at the start of the next book is a David Graeber quote, who's an anarchist that recently died. The principle of direct action is to live as if you're free already. what we do, we don't go shouting at the aristocrat that owns the river. We just go peaceably and gently and with love to the river, and we keep coming back, and we keep coming back. But also we have to make a song and dance about it, because swimming in the river will improve your day and improve mine. But it's not, unless we turn it into a direct action, unless we make it public, we're not going to improve the lives of, say, inner city Bangladeshi kids, for whom the idea is so out of their ken that they're not even going to consider it as an option.
Yeah. And I think that whole, what we have seen, and there'll be a blog coming out with this that I wrote at the back end of last year. What we have seen unquestionably locally in the Peak is that by people going out and swimming and ignoring those no swimming signs, the landowners have had to go, okay, we've got to pay attention to this now. And it's making them pay attention and making them do something and engage, because previously to the last couple of years, they haven't been willing to engage. I've been doing this for long enough now that I've tried and pushed and pushed. This is the first time we've had good engagement.
And how did you deal with those moments of conflict or non-conflict, if that's the route that you're going down? You know, if you're going swimming and you're worried because you've heard that someone's patrolling with the dog, or I don't know, they're going to take your number plate down. How do you deal with that and still have a nice day and a nice swim and still get the benefits of being out there?
For me, I'm going to hold my hands up and say, I really don't like confrontation. It's not, it surprises me that I find myself in this position. I was a total goody two-shoes at school. The prospect of getting told off kept me completely in line. This has made me go, right, sod it, I'm going to break the rules. I have been approached and confronted, but it's been a handful of times, and they've been unpleasant, but I've kind of gone, well, okay, it's all kind of for the greater good, I suppose. And I work around, so I will go early morning when I know there's going to be nobody there, or evenings, or, you know, it's times when I know I'm less likely to meet people that are going to cause that conflict. How do you deal with it, Nick?
Well, I went trespassing with the folk singer Sam Lee about a month ago, and he pulled out an apple when we were getting told off by two gamekeepers with guns during a shoot. He pulled out an apple, and like some kind of 18th century scallywag just started eating it. And you could see it really pissed the gamekeepers off, but not in any kind of tangible way that they could have a go. He wasn't being rude or anything like that. And often the hardest thing, when you know you're in the right, because you've just been swimming in God's rivers, you know, you've just been communing with the absolute sacred beauty of nature, and along comes this, you know, slab of gammon, and starts being very aggressive and threatening. Sometimes it's harder to just swallow it, which you know you have to do, because otherwise they've got the police on their side. You'll be done for a breach of the peace. You know you have to. Sometimes the thing that leaves a bad taste in the back of the throat is just having to go, yes, boss, and tug your forelock to just end the aggressive situation. But from what Sam did onwards, I think always like do exactly what you're supposed to do and be as polite as pie, but just eat an apple whilst they're having a go at you. I think I've thought long and hard about it. I think it's because you don't generally start consuming unless you're very, very comfortable in a place that you are. I think there's something primal, and I think that's what pisses them off, because if you start eating, it's not like you're gathering up your stuff and going, oh my God, I'm so sorry, and scarpering. Let them have their say, but eat an apple.
Yeah, I think the relentlessness of it round by us has worn them down. I think it's taken so much time and effort out of landowners' days that they've just gone, oh crap, we're going to have to pay attention to them now. And it is working, and it's wonderful.
But yeah, I was moored by the River Avon, by the Dundas Aqueduct, and just in the corner by the aqueduct, there's just this perfect swim spot, because it's a pontoon for a public boys' school, or public school for boys or whatever. And and there's barbed wire and there's signs and there's all, you know, there's all manner of like people always there, like sort of giving you aggro kind of thing. But come a sunny day, the people that give you aggro aren't there because there's like 70 other people that have got picnics and paddle boards that are there instead. The sheer weight of numbers just means that the sort of exclusive spell that they've tried to put on this land doesn't work. People just kept on coming back, to the point now that the signs are like, you know, falling off their hinges, the barbed wire's sagging. No, you just have to ignore the laws that you ethically disagree with, but you have to do it en masse with your friends, and you have to publicize it as well. There's no good sneaking around, like you say, going in the morning or going at night. What we're doing is a sacred thing, and we're making our bodies feel better, and we're saving the NHS money. So why the hell am I supposed to be crawling around in the shadows doing it? You know, it's our job to be, as we were saying, Suzie, you're more of a bridge character, like the British canoeing. Like it's kind of incumbent upon you to be political and diplomatic and nice, but someone's got to push the Overton window, and it's kind of more fun doing it as well. I've got no reason to be rude or shout to anyone.
Yeah, it's great because we need all of this. We need exactly. The yous that go fuck it, and we need the me's in the middle that talk to them, and we need the mild-mannered ones, and that it's all a whole picture, and everybody can work together on this, whether it's the Outdoor Swimming Society, individuals, Swim England even, you know, they are keen on improving access as well this year, and everybody needs to be working together on this, and speaking to each other as well, communicating across the board.
So I guess maybe it's worth addressing some of the reasons that they're going to say they don't want you to be swimming, and safety is one of them, but I think you talked about that, and the other, I guess, is looking after the ecology, or perhaps respecting that it's a working landscape as well as one that we're just, you know, spending our free time in. So I guess, yeah, along with the right to roam comes great responsibility. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what that means for swimmers in particular?
Yeah, I mean, from an environment perspective, in fact, there's another article that needs to go out tonight as well. I've just remembered that is specifically on that. Part of the problem is because we have sites that are very well used, and there are a small number of sites that become honeypot sites. They become traps for lots of people, that they do get damaged because of the sheer footfall. If we had wider access, that wouldn't happen, because all of that number would be spread across. But there's lots of basic stuff, understanding about biosecurity, so you're not potentially spreading invasive species between water bodies, that kind of stuff. But from what I see, the people who come and engage in outdoor activities, whether it be swimming, walking, climbing, running, mountain biking, whatever, when they come and engage and enjoy that environment, they want to protect it. So we have I come from an environment background originally. I used to do a lot of research into climate change, and people are a bit clueless until you start to explain to them why and the impact it has and what the effect it's going to be on them. And once they get to be out in nature and enjoy it, they start to want to protect it. And I see it with kids locally as well, and they go, oh, I can't be bothered to throw this, but I'm going to throw this away. Once they get out in nature and go, oh, actually, that's not very nice, is it? It looks grim. Stuff might get stuck in it. They go, all right, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be a bit more conscientious. So yes, there is a potential impact. You've got
organisations like the Outdoor Swimming Society, that's the place where you can go and you can say, all right, what do I actually need to do to be responsible?
Exactly, and there's loads of great stuff on that. There's the Outdoor Swimmers Code, and there's another one on kind of environmental, social responsibility as well. Yeah.
So
we're actually, sorry, could I just add to that? We're actually trying to take it one step further than just kind of leaving no trace and not causing any damage. There are so many ways that the public can actively engage with not just like the monitoring of nature, but like the protection of nature. So We Swim Wild is Laura Owen Sanderson's gig over in Wales, and they're basically making water sampling, like pollution sampling from microplastics to sewage. They're basically setting up a scheme where local areas can buy their own sampling kit, and basically go and actively do what the Environment Agency are too underfunded or arguably too weak at the top to enforce. But there's also, you know, right, if you're going kayaking or if you're going wild swimming and you've got like you're going a distance, why not pick up the Lucasade bottle that's clogged in the willow roots? Why not untangle the tarp that's you know, on the low hanging alder? Like, if we, not only if we show landowners and the government, but also genuinely that's one of our missions out on the river, is to improve it, then actually the public can become the eyes and ears, and our presence there will improve it rather than, you know, positive trace rather.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's loads. Talk to any swim group, and loads of them will say we take extra bags with us to pick stuff up, to carry stuff out with. I know there's a particular spot I use that gets hammered in the summer by kids, and the landowner, I think, appreciates swimmers going because we carry all the crap out with us, as do the free divers and the scuba divers that use it. So they're kind of like, well, we welcome you guys because you deal with what otherwise we're going to have to deal with. Yeah.
So to a certain extent, we can be responsible, we can look after the places that we go, but at the end of the day, we're still kind of following these 16th century rules. So what do we do about that, Nick? How do we challenge the status quo? And
Well, I mean, this is the year. It's the 90th anniversary of the Kinder Trespass. So, you know, even the Spectator and the Daily Mail are going to be talking about a trespass. And they're going to venerate what was essentially reported as a direct action by 400 Yobs in 1932. And they're going to venerate it because it's become, just like Emmeline Pankhurst or Martin Luther King, it's become sepia toned and acceptable by you know, the system or orthodox society. But what people are going to forget is the actual impetus to do the trespass in the first place. So it's our position. This is exactly why I've got a book coming out. I just realized that we had to take the airwaves, we had to take the column inches and actually point people towards how much more needs to be done. So all I would ask, like all our job is, what we've done is we're building at the moment a platform so that you can go and take people on a trespass story, take photos, do the research, find out, you know, do a Guy Shrubsole or do what I did for the Book of Trespass. It's not hard to find out who owns the land. Find a bit of context, check them out on Companies House, see where they make their money, see what they do with their money, how much, you know, sort of intensive farming happens on their land. Just up from me on the Thames at the moment, there's an estate that has just ploughed a monoculture of maize into the same like riverbank, like floodplain land for like the last 30 years. I know that from just talking to local people that have lived there. The amount of fertilizer that they put, breaking the regulations, you know, right up to the ploughed field, right up to the riverbank on a floodplain where it will all get washed away the next day. Like, you can smell it when you walk there. That's a genuine crime against the environment, but they get away with it because there's no eyes and ears in the countryside, because these are empty domains that these people own and do what they like with. And of course, the impact of fertilizer is felt downstream with, you know, deoxygenated rivers. So it's up to us. And I would direct people to, rather than do a trespass, like, work out the context, present it as a story, turn it into a direct action. And the way you'll do that is by adding to our what we're calling the Trespass Trip Advisor. And, you know, there's a kind of postcode. You can plot it on a map that's there so that other people can come along and see what you've done, read the context. So many people are up for doing this that we felt we needed to collect it. And it's only then can we take it to people like Caroline Lucas, that's, you know, we've recently had lots of meetings with. We need to provide a base of evidence that people are using rivers, A, because they love it, and B, because they want to protect it. And we need to destroy this notion that the public are vandals. The English public is a public of amateurs and enthusiasts and entomologists and botanists and swimmers. People don't go wild swimming just to tone their body. People go wild swimming because wagtails are awesome, you know.
I think
sorry.
Just to interject, I think what you've said about kind of being labelled as yobs, I think that there is a small minority who do go and swim and will leave their crap behind. But part of me goes, actually, they're doing that because they just don't know any different. They haven't been educated in how to respect the environment. When I was a kid, I remember doing the countryside code at school. That doesn't happen anymore. People aren't taught how to respect the environment anymore. We talk about it in schools because there's the climate crisis and we need to be more environmentally conscientious. But the basics of how to behave well in the countryside, a lot of people just don't know. It's the same as a lot of people don't know how to be safe when they swim. Yeah.
I'll be interested. Can I just ask a question? Because one of our we've tried to get an answer for everything, basically. And so the whole lockdown litter, the whole like trash-free trails are an offshoot of Surfers Against Sewage and ecology of litter, and how to deal with it, basically. But really, I wanted to see what people think about this. Like, we're taking this from a kind of Maori philosophy, who famously, the Wanganui River was one of the first rivers in the world to gain its own legal. But crucially, if it's going to have its own personhood, it's got to have actual people to advocate for it in court, to stand up and give evidence. It's treated much like a child kind of thing, so the adults have to come in. But these groups, they're called kaitiakitanga, and they're called guardian groups. So what we're proposing is, rather than just getting a huff every time, because just down there, come summer, it's like Iron Appa, and guaranteed it's like 16-year-old, 14-year-old kids. It's full of testosterone and estrogen. It is like mating ground, you know, central kind of thing. You don't want to go anywhere near there. And everyone's jumping off the high tree to impress the people on the bank. And actually, like, that's fair enough. And the people that do leave the litter, what I'm proposing, or Right to Roam are proposing, maybe it's down to the kaitiakitanga, maybe it's down to the local users of the river, the people that are there come winter, come autumn, come spring, come summer, that really, really know the river, really love it on a deeper level other than just recreation on a hot day. And like it or lump it, maybe it's up to us to become the river guardians and to clear up that litter, but not to do it like menial, grumbling caretakers, but to do it like we're protecting, as the Maori and the sort of the Kaitiaki, that this sort of code, to do it like we're protecting something that is either, as they would see it, kith and kin, or a goddess or a god. Why not elevate litter picking to an act of worship, rather than villainizing these faceless kids that come along once in a blue moon and leave their disposable barbecues? They do not represent the most of us, but therefore the most of us must take the responsibility for them, because we live in a society and their children are our society's children. So we do have a responsibility, I would suggest, to clear up their litter, because all the evidence suggests you litter less where there's less litter.
Yeah, and I think as well that those people will see that action as well, and they will go. It makes them think again about, oh, maybe we shouldn't be doing this, or maybe we should be a little bit more conscientious. And as they get older, they will become the responsible custodians and take over. Yeah.
Trash-free trails are actually coming to ShAFF this weekend. So they made a film, I think called The Trash Mob, and it's about young people who are going out learning to mountain bike, but they're doing exactly what you've described. Like, in going out there and enjoying mountain biking, they're also picking up the litter and feeling responsible for their local area. And we're going to have a litter pick on Saturday in our local area for ShAFF. So yeah, I think that is the way you have to do it. And also, you see that litter out there, you have to pick it up, because you can't see that rubbish in that place that you love.
Yeah, and I think what we talked about on the last talk, and probably previous ones as well, about kind of on water quality, and we are the eyes, as Nick has already said, we are the eyes and ears, and we can report back to people. And there are schemes with rivers trusts and other local kind of conservation groups that do get people involved in this kind of stuff. So the We Swim Wild stuff that Nick's mentioned, that's kind of national, but there will be other local organisations you can get involved in.
So if people want to find out about that specifically in Sheffield, do you think the best thing is to join Sheffield Outdoor Plungers group or that kind of thing?
Yeah. To be fair, probably the majority of people are on here are off Soup or have found it on Soup. But yeah, there were a few in the beginning that were from quite a way off. There was some Bristol, Brighton folk. So yeah.
So I know you were talking about you're in negotiation. I don't know what you can say and what you can't say about the progress in gaining access locally. Is there anything you can update about that?
So what I can talk about, as a direct result of all of this mild-mannered, happy, kind, gentle trespassing and sheer power in numbers, last year Yorkshire Water approached the OSS and a group of us who are working together to talk about swimming with them. So Yorkshire Water and all of the water companies and the Canal and Rivers Trust, who own the majority of the reservoirs in England, have a blanket no swimming policy. It isn't anything that's written down, it's just like a gentleman's agreement between them that they all have this policy that they don't allow swimming in their reservoirs. But what Yorkshire Water have come to realise is that there are lots and lots of people swimming. Last summer, they put what they call marshals on certain reservoirs, and they moved around during the day to different water spots. Some of them had dogs with them. Some swimmers were quite intimidated by them. I think they were a bit like, oh, why are the security trying to tell us off? And they were there for lots of reasons. They were there it wasn't just for swimmers. You know, they do get antisocial behaviour. They do get kids jumping off dam walls, which is dangerous and does need to be monitored and kind of discouraged and looked after in a little way. But because they then saw how many swimmers there were, they've come to us to discuss it and say, well, you know, what do we need to think about? What do we need to look at? And we've had a number of meetings with them already. We're about to have another meeting with them to try and put across the swimmers' perspective, to try and explain to them, well, this is why we swim. This is why so many people do this. The last meeting we had with them was to try and, as Nick's already said, I like to be a bridge. I like to talk to both sides so that we can understand all sides of the story. Because, you know, landowners do have concerns and they do have worries. But what is becoming really, really clear to us is that they are deep-seated, institutionalized fears that are passed through these organizations where a lot of the staff have been there their entire careers. You know, a lot of them have been there 20 odd years. It's just a deep-seated belief that the safety element of swimming in reservoirs is super dangerous. You're going to die. You're going to get sucked down a pipe. Now, we met with a reservoir engineer at our last meeting, and he didn't provide us with any evidence to suggest that reservoirs are as dangerous as they make out. Particularly when you look in the context of where people swim in the UK, that we can swim at the coast with no restriction. The coast is a massively dynamic environment. It changes all the time. I am not a happy sea swimmer. I know how much it changes. I used to do a lot of sea kayaking, and it scares me a little bit. Rivers, again, are dynamic environments. They're full of obstacles. They're moving water generally. They can, you know, rise and fall really quickly if we get a lot of rain. Reservoir, still body of water, it just makes sense. It's not moving. Yes, it's cold. It might be deep, but they're really standard risks that outdoor swimmers are used to assessing. And I think what slightly surprised them when they started the conversation with it was, and I could see this like dawning realization in the very first meeting we had, and they went, oh, we're talking to people who are quite sensible. And it, you know, we're like 4 middle class, quite well educated women predominantly who are having these discussions. Someone works in public health. In fact, a couple of them work in public health. I have an environment background. I've done negotiations at this kind of level before. And I think it's been a shock to them to hear the common sense side of it and the reasons behind it. And I don't know what progress we're going to make. I know that they are talking to other water companies, so they will hear what they want to hear from the other water companies, won't they? They'll all be agreeing and having the same idea and the same assumptions. But what we're also trying to get them to do is to accept what all the safety organisations say. All of the safety organisations, RLSS, RNLI, the Fire Chiefs Councils, the Water Safety Forum, all saying no and telling people just to stay out doesn't keep them safe. And if their argument for keeping people out is safety, they haven't got one, because everybody is telling them that is not the way to keep people safe. The way to keep people safe is to educate them. And they're not doing that at the moment, because they just say, no, you're not allowed in. We're going to shout at you and kick you out. Because people are going in. You know, the most at-risk groups, and I've been told off for stereotyping before, but the statistics are so clear. The people who are most likely to have a dangerous incident are men in an age bracket of kind of mid-teens to 30s. And they are not the kind of people who are going to pay any attention to a no swimming sign. They're going to walk past it because they're risk takers. That's what they want to do. I'm sure, Nick, you will vouch for this.
I've been one of them.
Exactly, yeah.
I once was a man who was between 18 and 30.
Yeah, and how many dangerous situations did you put yourself in?
Well, not because I'm like you. I'm kind of scared of. I live on a river, and I'm scared of rivers. Like Storm Eugene on the River Thames was like facing God. But so they are concerned about public safety, but what they really mean is their liability. You know, like really, I don't think they're acting out of altruism, and there is a very murky area of the law that does need to be cleared up, and basically just put the responsibility away from the landowner and onto the user, because rivers are dangerous, the sea is dangerous, reservoirs have currents made from winds and stuff. You know, reservoirs aren't like, but what is our paranoia with danger? Like, how are we going to learn? How are we raising children to be responsible adults that know their own limits and know their capabilities if we're cotton wooling them from danger? I'm not suggesting push a kid off a cliff and, you know, like the Spartans, and see if they sink or swim, but I am suggesting you have to get to know an area, and the first few times you go as a kid, go with adult supervision, go with someone like yourself, Suzie, that teaches outdoor. Like, why did I learn to swim in a chlorinated box when I grew up 3 miles away from the River Thames? Paranoia. You know, and like I swim in the river. Well, in the winter I dunk in the river, but I swim miles in the Thames, and there are different bits. There's different, you know, different topography of the bed kind of thing that causes the river to act in different ways. Yeah. You learn it. And you also learn the way the water looks and stuff. Why are we creating these coddled, ignorant children?
Exactly.
Like, it's not helping anyone. No. And also, the statistics I read.
Yeah, these are the skills we've lost. And these are exactly the skills we've lost. That basic knowledge that's been lost because we've not been allowed to do it. Yeah.
Everyone's waiting. Nick, were you halfway through saying something? Sorry. So do you Do you feel like you've told us everything you want to about the Right to Roam campaign? You told us about the website to go along with the book. Do you have anything else planned?
We've got loads of trespasses. But I mean, really, the purpose of the website is to ask you to trespass for us. Like, don't wait for Guy Shrubsole to turn up, because he's writing a book about rainforests at the moment, and you know, he's a busy boy. Like, we will do some large trespasses, but really what we want is for people to go out just with their mates or on their own and a camera, with a little bit of reading, a little bit of research, like get to know the history and the context and the ownership of the land around you, and tell the story in like 10 photos and 10 small paragraphs. And the story could either be, you know, we sampled this for microplastics and here's what we found, or we downloaded this invasive species app and we conducted some citizen science and we found the American signal crayfish kind of thing, and here's what we did. And by the way, we weren't allowed to do it because it's the Derwent, and there's been this, you know, huge battle surrounding whether I'm allowed to paddle in the Derwent kind of thing. Tell the story and enjoy it, and just go for the crack of it. But actually, while you're enjoying yourself, make it one step more feasible that people for whom society has just completely blocked the consciousness of nature, to make it easier for them. You know, by publishing it, you build a bridge, or you pull one brick out of the wall that blocks communities that have no connection with nature at all. And that's what's crucial for public health. We all need access to these beautiful natural environments.
And is the website live, or is it it's going to go live when the book comes out towards the end of April?
It's yeah, I mean, you know, it's just another thing on the list of stuff to do. But Nemini, my mate, is building it, and she's doing a beautiful job. But it is quite complicated because of the map, and because of the, you know, the upload. Like, we're literally asking people to supply the content for the website. So yeah, it will be up and running by the end of April for sure. Trespasserscompanion.org.
I assume ShAFF, you can maybe promote it as well on your avenues when it comes out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay. It's 10:02. So did anyone have any questions? I haven't really been able to keep an eye on the chat.
I think something I wanted to add to Nick's kind of actions that you can take. There's also really positive stuff you can do, contacting local landowners, contacting your local councillors, writing to your MPs. We had MPs engaged last year with the Yorkshire Water discussions because swimmers had contacted them and said, oh, right, okay, well, we've got to listen to our constituents, so we're going to have to engage in this now. It's a bit vague as to whether it's gone anywhere, but you know, that does have an impact, and I know that it is being talked about at government level, and it is being talked about at high level in the water authorities as well. I've spoken to Water UK recently, and they have concerns. They know that this is coming. They know that there will be mass trespasses this year, and they've got to do something about it. There are various petitions doing the round as well. If you see anything coming around on access, just stick your name on it. They usually take 2 minutes to fill in as well, and that's all still extra people power and extra numbers that we can take to organisations or whoever to say, look, there is evidence here for this, that we need this.
Yeah. So we've got a question which I think is kind of a comment rather than a question from Imogen, saying, would it be a good idea to act as if we do have the right to swim in rivers and that we have the public right of navigation, and not buy into the landowner view of the legal position and spread that message? I think that is exactly what we've been talking about.
Well, Imogen's website is, you know, the Outdoor Swimming Society is the base of it all. I've limitless respect for the information and the style and the design, and that's how we should be presenting nature. And yeah, myself and Imogen have spoken about that, and effectively that's what my new book is saying, like, live as if you're free already. If it needs to be a critical mass. We need people, rather than seeing it as just something that you're doing for your own pleasure. We now need to gather a collective consciousness and actually go to different rivers, go and do it deliberately, and go and do it with the purpose of publishing it on our website. Because since lockdown, you know, paddleboard sales were up 300% in the first lockdown, kind of thing. Like this is the moment. This is the breaking point right now. And it is just literally down to the amount of people that can be bothered, as every protest in the country of time is. So I would love for everyone listening to this to go out and trespass.
Yeah, and it's a really good point. If we're here, I'm here as usually people see me as a swimmer, but it is so important to me that everybody gets better access to water. The British Canoeing did loads and loads of good work on trying to improve access, and they've done loads of campaigning on it. But paddle sports they involve a bit more faff, there's a bit more effort involved. You can't do it quite as discreetly because you've got loads of kit. You've got to carry a boat or a board, and it's why we don't paddle as much anymore, because it became too much faff once we had kids and had full-time jobs and stuff. Swimming's so much easier. That's why it's increased so much in popularity. That's why there are millions of us doing it, because all you need is a swimming costume and a towel, or frankly, pants, whatever you're wearing, just go in, strip off. It's much easier. It's a more easily accessible activity than paddle sports, but we can support that campaign too. We need everybody to have access. It's mind-boggling to me that British Canoeing have managed to get access for their members on a lot of the canals in the UK, but it has always been the reservoirs the Canal and Rivers Trust reservoirs have always been excluded from that. And you know, they are super safe to go and learn on, to paddle around. It just doesn't make any sense.
There's another comment here from Phil, and he's saying, if reservoirs are officially opened up, could this open the way to alternative restrictive actions? In other words, are they then going to start charging? If they're legally responsible for providing safety for those who use it, could they not begin to charge for access under the guise of covering safety costs?
Yeah. So there is really clear guidance from various organisations that, providing safety for those who use it. Providing safety, that only needs to be a sign that warns of unusual dangers. It doesn't have to be that they have their life guarded, that they have safety cover on, like you would get in a formal organised venue set up. They don't have to provide that. I think they want to, because they want to control it, but they don't have to. Just putting, all they have to do legally is sign any unusual risks or hazards. They don't even have to, the standard hazards, like it's deep and it's cold, they don't even need to do that. It's the unusual hazards specific to that location that they have to sign. If you go and the links that Imogen has put in the chat, we'll maybe try and get those sent out afterwards as well. Are really, really good on all that information of what they do have to do and what they don't have to do and what their actual legal liabilities are.
Okay, and there's a question from Fiona who says, I guess Susie's already answered this question with contacting MPs, etc., but I'm wondering if there's any way to get involved in the campaign as someone who's currently housebound with the chronic illness. Obviously I can't go out and trespass at the moment, but I'd love to be able to take part if possible.
Share stuff. If you have a presence on social media, share it. Make sure that everybody's aware of it. Any actions that your friends take, that we as a group take, share it and go, this is what everyone's doing, follow suit, support them. If you are happy to contact people and write to MPs, councillors, whatever. I have a number of clients now who have come to me with chronic health conditions. They're not housebound, but they do have problems and they want to use the water to help them. And I can't even begin to explain how rewarding it is as a coach to see how much it helps. It's been fantastic, and I just want to be able to do that more. I
wonder with the website as well, the Trespassers Companion website, that if you can't physically go there right now, that you could still either research a place or you could upload your memories and talk about the stories of those places.
Absolutely. And I would say as well, you know, sharing is social media based, but also just inviting your mates round for a cup of tea and a focused chat about it. When we've been planning our big trespasses or slightly smaller trespasses, or, you know, when we've been planning group trespasses, it always feels like the, you know, the bit in the warehouse in Reservoir Dogs before it all goes wrong. It feels like a heist movie. It's really fun. You've got the OS maps out. With the river, you work out where you're going in, where you're going out. What's the ecology to look for? There's so much. Like, it's actually a good day out, and you could be doing all of this on all the rivers of England. And the reason we don't is because we're not allowed to. But we're just asking people to ignore that last aspect for this year, and then probably, I reckon, 2 more years, and then we'll break it, basically.
Yeah, that kind of planning stuff. Yeah, that kind of planning stuff Nick's talked about. Is it, have we lost him? Have we lost him completely? That planning stuff that Nick's talked about, and making sure you broke up for a bit. You went a bit wobbly. Making sure that making sure that you're doing it very considerately is really important, because that, if you don't, that just feeds into this narrative of, oh, they're being disrespectful and harmful to the environment. There are loads of resources you can go to find out if places are SSSIs, if they have nature designations on them. I need to highlight, though, just because something has some kind of nature designation on it doesn't mean you shouldn't access it. Nature designations are often for something very specific. So, for example, the 2 reservoirs that I've run organised kind of venue type swims on are both SSSIs, but they're SSSIs for this very specific moss that only comes out at certain times of water levels, and where we access the water will never impact on them. So it's irrelevant. You can still operate in that area. So it's really important to be mindful of that. And just because somebody has said, oh, but it's a nature reserve, or there's this protected species here, or something along that ilk, because that is often used as a defense for why they want to restrict access. Go and find out the specifics and find out whether actually that's a valid argument. If anyone wants information on that, I can send them links to kind of the maps and stuff to look up on.
Okay, right. Okay, well, we've come to 9 o'clock. Unless anyone's got any other burning questions, then I think that's it. I guess what I'd say is, don't forget ShAFF's happening this weekend, and we've got 3 sessions of water films, which are really, really good films this year. So if you're around and about in Sheffield, come to them. And thank you, Nick. Thank you, Suzie. Hopefully you can come and update for us. Hopefully ShAFF 2024, when we've all got the right of access.
Yeah, thanks for having us, everyone. Thanks for listening as well.
Thank you.